If you're looking for the ultimate American off-road SUV, it doesn't get much better than a Jeep Wrangler. This nameplate has been the embodiment of that for decades, and back in 2017 when Jeep introduced the all-new JL Wrangler, they essentially raised the bar in a segment that Jeep essentially created. Now, of course, since then we've seen a bunch of new competitors, from Ford's excellent Bronco to Land Rover's Defender, and of course the new Toyota Land Cruiser. However, in 2024, Jeep has finally seen fit to give the Wrangler family a big round of upgrades that includes new styling, new technology, and of course upgraded hardware to give this thing even more off-road capability. However, this week, as you can see, Jeep has loaned us the ultimate version of the Wrangler, which also is going to become an instant collector's edition because we are testing out this Wrangler Rubicon 392 Final Edition. With only 3,700 being produced for the US and Canada, it is definitely going to be a huge collector's item, and of course it's going to have a price tag that's going to reflect that. So if you guys are looking for the ultimate off-road gas-powered Wrangler, has Jeep managed to create that with this Rubicon 392 Final Edition? Stay tuned to find out. So if you guys see a Wrangler with the 392 badge, the big story is going to be found underneath the hood, because this is one of the first factory-built Wranglers that came with a naturally aspirated V8. And of course, with everything moving toward electrification, to find a 6.4-liter pushrod Hemi V8 under the hood of a Wrangler is just music to a lot of enthusiast ears. And I'm really happy to see that Jeep has kept this, option, this powertrain around for the last 3 years. But 2024 is the last model year that you can get a Wrangler with the V8. So what you essentially get is a 6.4-liter Hemi naturally aspirated pushrod V8 with cylinder deactivation. It doesn't even have direct injection or no boosted technology, no electrification as well, and the numbers are still very impressive: 470 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. This makes it the most powerful production Wrangler that Jeep has ever produced. It essentially has the same torque as the 4xe, the plug-in hybrid Wrangler, but it has around 100 more horsepower. It all goes out through an 8-speed automatic transmission, and all Rubicon 392s come, of course, with the company's full-time four-wheel drive system, which includes locking front and rear differentials. It also includes a front sway bar disconnect. And in case you guys are wondering, the fuel economy is going to be the worst of the bunch at 13 in the city and 16 on the highway. This vehicle is rated to, of course, to run on premium fuel. It has a 21.5-gallon fuel tank. You're looking at around 250 to 300 miles of range, depending, of course, on how disciplined you can be with your right foot. Now, Jeep claims you can do 0 to 60 in around 4.5 seconds. It has a top speed of around 112 miles an hour, which is terrifying in a Wrangler with, a vehicle with live axles, front and rear, recirculating ball type steering. The vehicle did get upgraded Dana 44 axles for 2024. So some models can tow up to 5,000 pounds. However, this version here, because of the weight, will only tow a maximum of 3,500 pounds. And as this car sits, it weighs in at just over 5,400 pounds, a whopping 400 pounds heavier compared to the last 392 that I tested. And that's because of some of the additional hardware that Jeep has added for this final edition version. But once you close the hood and check out the exterior styling of this Wrangler, you can clearly see that this vehicle has a lot of presence to it. In fact, the Wrangler in general, I've always thought looked fantastic, but the Rubicon 392 takes it to the next level, especially when you get the upgrades with the final edition package. Now, obviously, all 392s will have this badge here with the hood bulge on the hood to let everybody know you've got a special engine underneath here. My particular test car being the final edition also has some unique hood graphics and graphics along the side to let you know that this is the final edition. You can see all Wranglers got the upgraded 7-slot grille for 2024, which I actually really like the design. It's a subtle change, but I think an effective change. And then all 392s also come standard with the company's performance LED headlights, where it has an LED daytime running light, LED turn signal, LED low and high beams, and LED halo around the headlight, which kind of creates a nice light signature. And then with the final edition, you get this standard steel bumper with the 3-piece winch and the Warn winch system. It again creates a really tough and rugged look. But it also gives you a functional design, because this can essentially help pull you out of a tight spot if you guys are stuck. And it also adds a significant amount of weight to the front of the vehicle, around 300 pounds compared to the 2021 version that I tested. I also love the fact that you have fog lights still in this vehicle. The steel bumper is going to be really nice if you guys are in those off-road conditions where you don't have to worry about scratching this up or damaging it. I also love the exposed screws with the steel bumper group. And then moving around the side profile of the vehicle, you can see the Wrangler 392 is only available as the 4-door, which means it's the limited. It has an overall length of around 188.4, 192 inches if you include the spare tire on the back. 118-inch long wheelbase. This vehicle also gets the 392 upgraded suspension, which is live axles front and rear, of course. But Jeep also goes a step further by increasing the ride height by about 1/2 inch. You have a total of 11.5 inches of ground clearance on this particular model. Now you can see the final edition also includes the 17-inch beadlock capable bronze finish wheels with a double 5-spoke design. Love the look of the wheels. You have a little over a 13-inch brake rotor front and rear, 4-wheel disc brakes obviously, and then the 392 final edition comes standard with, of course, 35-inch tall BF Goodrich all-terrain KO2 tires. You can also get a 37-inch tall tire, but not on my particular test car. Again, 35-inch tall tire, has a really good amount of sidewall and clearance, a lot of capability, but keep in mind the Bronco Raptor, this car's main competitor, does come standard with the 37-inch tall tires, which also gives it a more meaner look. Now you can see the fender flares, body colored, which I appreciate. There's also a little over flare to give it, again, the additional space needed for bigger tires, because you can easily put a 37 on this. You can see there's some of the badging there to show off that it's the final edition with more of the bronze badging. The mirrors here are just black, unpainted. No integrated turn signal, as you can see. They are, I believe, a heated mirror with blind spot monitors, but no 4 cameras around the vehicle. You do have a camera on the front of the car. And then my test car for $4,000 also has the one-touch sky roof. You can't even get something like that on the Ford Bronco, which I think is a great feature. You also have the rock rails, of course. And then moving around the rear of the vehicle, you can see it has the classic Wrangler looks. Love the military-inspired design with the boxiness of it. I love the body-colored roof panels that you get with the one-touch sky roof panel, of course. And then looking at the rear, you can see you also get that same upgraded spare tire. It's a full-size matching wheel with the matching alloy. The rear cargo door, the hinges have been reinforced to, of course, support the additional weight of the bigger tire on the back. I also love the placement of the rear camera back here. You also have parking sensors. You have full LED taillights. The blind view or the blind spot monitoring feature is located in that little portion of the tail light or the tail light. And then looking under here, you can see the Wrangler 392 is also going to come with a quad outlet exhaust. I also appreciate the fact that the exhaust is kind of tucked underneath, although, you know, it still would likely get in the way when you're in some extreme off-roading conditions. The sound of this engine, however, is the best part. So let's go ahead and fire it up. You can hear how it sounds real quick. And obviously the noises that you get from a V8 are always going to be better versus a V6. So if you pull up next to your neighbor's Bronco Raptor, you can embarrass them by simply revving the engine in your Wrangler 392. But let's go ahead and open up the cargo area. You can see it has a swing out door, which is the classic thing for Wranglers. You also have some interesting, upgrades here in the actual tailgate itself. You also have a built-in air compressor, which is a really cool feature. My test car has that for an additional $2,000. And then, of course, with the hardtop, you have that flip-up glass panel. And then in terms of the cargo capacity, Jeep says you have around 27.6 cubic feet of space with the seats up. You can see there's also an 83-piece toolkit that the final edition comes with, along with the cover for the panels, for the side panels over there, which is a nice touch. You can see underneath here, there's a little bit of underfloor storage. Of course, you're going to find your jack and your toolkits in here, some nice little holders there for when you want to take off the roof and the doors to put all the hinges and the bolts. Fold down that second row seat, it increases the space to around 67 cubic feet, so which is a pretty decent figure, but just keep in mind some competitors are going to give you even more space. But also keep in mind there's also a 2-door version of the Wrangler that has even less practicality, but a little bit more of a cool factor. Most buyers, however, have been choosing the 4-door, which is, again, the more practical option to go with. So moving on to the interior of this Wrangler 392 Final Edition. Let's go ahead and talk about the inside, but first let me go ahead and show you guys the key fob. You can see this is the current Jeep Intelligent Access key that they introduced on the Wrangler back when the JL first came out. I appreciate the fact that it feels very sturdy. It's also, very bulky as well. It's a fairly large key. It also still continues to have the switchblade part of the key fob, and that's because you can see there are traditional cylinder locks on the doors of the Wrangler still, although again, with the intelligent access function, you don't even need to use that. You can see it has your usual unlock, lock, remote start, and panic function. However, Jeep does offer phone as a key on other models. I'm not entirely sure if you can get that on the Wrangler, but as you can see, approaching the vehicle, door handles are unpainted. They are traditional. If you want to lock the vehicle, you just touch that button. That will lock the door for you. It also will beep. touch the back of the door handle, that will unlock the door for you. Jeep does not offer a walk-away auto lock or unlock feature. Now you can see, looking at the interior of the final edition, I hope you guys like a black interior because this is your only color combination option. You basically get a black leather interior with the contrast bronze stitching and the Rubicon 392 embossed into the actual seat backs. The new feature obviously is the 8-way power driver function and the 8-way power passenger function, which is nice. No memory seats, however, you still don't get that feature. These seats are also 3-level heated, but Jeep does not offer ventilated seats. I would have liked to see ventilated seats and a memory function, especially when you're looking at a 6-figure price tag. Now looking at the door panels, you can see there's a soft touch injection molded plastic here. You have some silver painted door handles here, and then you have some padded leather over here with the contrast bronze stitching. There's also a little net here that gives you a little bit of storage, but these doors are designed to be removed, so there's not really much here in terms of storage or comfort. You also have your mirror controls here. The window controls are going to be located in the center of the vehicle. That's always been a Wrangler thing, but at least they give you the door lock switch here. But overall, the interior makes a decent first impression. The power seats is definitely a nice touch, and you also have 4-way lumbar here, which is also going to be better for those, you know, longer road trips. Now getting inside, you can see the 392 basically has these rock rails, but for somebody my height, I essentially have to use this little grab handle here and just hoist myself up into the vehicle, because remember, we have almost a foot of ground clearance here. So you could probably do an aftermarket step rail there, but it's going to, of course, impede on your off-road capability. As I shut the door has a pretty solid sounding thunk, which again adds to the impression that you're driving a real like tank of a vehicle. Now starting the Wrangler 392 up, you can see start stop button is where you expect it to be. And every time this thing rumbles to life, it basically just sounds like a classic American muscle car. It really puts a smile on your face. And if you want, you can also turn on the performance exhaust, which automatically opens up a baffle. That noise that this thing makes, I'm going to miss that, of course, with everything moving toward electrification, because this, unlike the 4xe, has the best sounds that you'll ever hear in this particular segment of vehicle. I mean, really, the supercharged Defender V8 is the only other vehicle that'll come close, but there's something about a muscle car noise that you get from a naturally aspirated American V8. Now, looking at the rest of this interior, you can see this is a 6-figure price tag Jeep, and the interior definitely has the best look that you've ever seen in a Jeep. I really like the steering wheel, the new steering wheel with the contrast stitching here, with the bronze accents. It's got perforated leather on it. It has real metal for the actual paddle shifters back here. You have your controls to control the trip computer and to control your adaptive cruise control, which again, the Wrangler's first time getting adaptive cruise control in this generation, which is nice. You have a manual tilt and telescoping adjustment for the wheel, but not a good amount of adjustability and range. So, you know, spend some time in this vehicle, see if you can get a comfortable driving position. The horn, it sounds nondescript, but not puny at least. Nothing super special. You can see the dashboard has some full leather stitching here, more stitching over here with leather covering the airbag cover, leather covering the grab handle here. You have a redesigned center stack with the new 12.3-inch Uconnect infotainment system. It has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It has their latest infotainment map graphics as well. And the Uconnect 5 is still a relatively nice working system. You can see there's a front and a rear camera with a washer, of course, with all these different camera views. Going to your home display here, you can see this is where you can add and customize this. You can go to your comfort and pull up climate, of course, as well. If you don't feel like using the actual hard buttons, the new dash vents also look pretty nice. And you can see down here, I love the fact that Jeep still gives you actual knobs and buttons. So you can see knob for volume, for tuning, for climate, actual dual zone climate, which is nice. You have a hill descent control. You can turn off your parking sensors, and then you can see window controls are here. You have a one-touch down for both of the front windows, but not one-touch down for the rear. Neither of the windows are one-touch up, which I think is super frustrating. I hate the way these are laid out. You can also turn off the windows there. I just think that Jeep could have made them one touch for all four. That would have been nice. You can see there's two USB charging ports, an A and a C, along with an aux port, a regular 12 volt. There's an off-road pages here where you can go into an off-road drive mode. Your front and rear sway bar disconnects are also over here, along with your locking rear diff. Locking front and rear diffs, along with different auxiliary buttons here where you can add aftermarket things. You can see this controls the 8-speed auto with a manual mode down here. In addition to the paddles, if I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see no 360 camera, but you do have a front and rear camera view, which is nice, along with parking sensors in the vehicle at the rear. I love the traditional shifter, love the traditional manual shifter as well for the 4-wheel drive system. It's always in 4-wheel auto. You can go into a 4-wheel high lock or 4 low. I love the traditional handbrake as well. You have a little bit more storage over here, but there's not much storage in general in the Wrangler itself. You can see you have a padded center console with 2 levels of storage. There's your tools to actually remove the windshield if you'd like, and the doors. Open this up, you can see you have another USB. Here's the little adapter or like controller switch for the Warn winch, which is also, you know, a nice touch what you got with this trim level. The seats are also nicely supportive. They are a little bit on the firm side, but I love the leather. I love how they do hold you in place relatively nicely. The headrest also isn't a brick like it was in the previous generations, which is also a nice touch. And then looking at the glove compartment here, you can see it's a bin style. It's on the small side, but at least it's lockable. There's a decent amount of storage in there. You can see there's a just an auto dimming rear view mirror, no digital camera rear view mirror. And then my particular test car, in addition to having those LED map lights for $4 grand, has this one touch sky roof panel, which as you can see, I push that little button there. It opens up the roof panel entirely going into the back seats. Now that is a wonderful feature, not available on something like the Ford Bronco, but it essentially gives it, you know, that one touch roof panel where you don't have to take off roof panels. So if it starts raining and you drove around with the roof open, you're not screwed. You just push a button and that closes the roof. So obviously the interior doesn't have the luxury car feel, but it definitely has some upgraded tech. It has good visibility where you essentially feel like a king of the road. And for a Wrangler, this is the nicest interior ever, but I really would have liked to see Jeep add features like memory seats and ventilated seats. Ventilated seats are definitely a must, especially if you're gonna be driving around with the roof open and it's on a really, really hot day. But let's go ahead and go into the backseat area of this 392. You can see getting back here, there's around 38 inches of legroom, which Jeep says is a pretty good amount. However, if you guys go for the 2-door, which isn't available on the V8, you're gonna have roughly 10 inches less rear seat legroom. So if you want practicality, you're gonna wanna go for this model. You can see there are soft touch door panel materials back here, the same as the front, padded area over here, a little bit more storage area that you're gonna find, of course, from here. You can see the rear seats do allow you to basically fold them down to create almost a flat floor. And I love the fact that it, you know, folds the headrest down and it kind of sinks down to create that near flat floor, which is a nice touch. If I wanna put the seat back up, you can see there is no recline function, so the seats are basically fixed there once they're in. But getting back here in terms of the space, you can see at 38 inches of legroom and 5'7" in height myself, there is a good amount of space. This is where I'd have the vehicle to drive. You do have rear seat vents, your mirror controls or your window controls are here. You have an actual 12-volt power outlet. In addition, you have 4 USB charging ports over there, 2 A's and 2 C's, which is a nice touch. You have little storage cubbies in each of the front seat packs. And then you can see, unlike the Bronco, the Wrangler does have a little center bar here, which does intrude on your actual view out of the roof. But keep in mind the Raptor will have the same thing. It's there for structural bracing, of course. There's also an armrest that folds down here that gives you 2 cup holders as well, a nice padded area here. And then in terms of the headroom space, you can see miles of headroom because of the roof being open. It basically stops right here where my head is going to be for the rear passengers. But overall, you can see the back seat certainly is usable for adults. You could also fit a child seat back here, but just keep in mind, I think the Bronco actually does offer a little bit more rear seat space. So we've known for quite some time that Jeep / Stellantis has always been a little batshit crazy, but the company really showed just how batshit crazy they were when they shoehorned the 6.4-liter Hemi naturally aspirated V8 into the Wrangler and created the Wrangler 392 about 3 years ago. In fact, it's been about 3 years since I had a chance to drive this vehicle. So now that Jeep has finally loaned us the final edition, the Sayonara version of the Wrangler 392, it's my pleasure to spend a week with this vehicle and do an updated review. Now, of course, the specs of this car haven't really changed, although you did get some upgrades to the Dana 44 live axles, of course. You have more safety features. You have an updated interior, slightly updated exterior, but we still have the 6.4-liter naturally aspirated Hemi V8 making 470 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque, going through an 8-speed auto, and of course the company's full-time 4-wheel drive system. This vehicle doesn't have launch control, but still, it's nearly 500 horsepower in a Wrangler. Now, the last time I 0 to 60 tested this vehicle, I got 5 seconds, or 4.5 seconds. Let's go ahead and see what we can get this time. There's no launch control. You basically just floor it from a stop here, and it will literally lift the front end up. Oh my God. 5.28 seconds there. Wow. The scary thing about this truck is when you do put your foot down hard, the front lifts up and the steering literally goes dead numb because the front tires are barely touching the ground. The thing basically does a wheelie, but we just got 5.28 seconds. Now I have to say that time is a lot slower versus the Wrangler 392 that I tested about 3 years ago. And that's because this one that I'm driving is a lot heavier, actually. You can basically blame the additional safety materials and of course the big winch that's on the front of this car that's adding a few hundred pounds extra to it. But really what I love about the Wrangler 392 is just the sound, the noises this thing makes. I mean, take a listen. Oh. Wow. 5.27 seconds there. That's with it going slightly uphill. So I'm actually surprised it was about as fast there. So maybe I didn't get a great launch the first time, but still the noises this thing makes. I was flabbergasted when I first drove this thing 3 years ago. I'm still doing that because you just can't beat the sound of a Hemi naturally aspirated V8. I mean, yes, there's the Bronco Raptor, which also is around the same ballpark in terms of pricing and capability, but the Bronco has a twin turbo V6. I haven't had a chance to drive it yet. I've been asking Ford to send me one and they just haven't yet. So I'm hoping sometime this year they will, so I can compare it and just drive it finally compared to this Jeep Wrangler. But I have to say the Bronco will definitely not match the Jeep sound when you put your foot down. And plus you have this really quick and responsive 8-speed automatic transmission built by ZF. The four-wheel drive system is automatic in this car, so there's no rear drive mode, which is kind of a shame, but you do have, of course, a 4-high, a 4-low, and then there's also the locking front and rear diffs, the sway bar disconnect. This has the ultimate off-road capability, paired up, of course, with the ultimate street performance, at least straight line performance. But at the same time, this thing never lets you forget that it's a Wrangler because we have recirculating ball type steering, we have live axles front and rear, we have a lot of noise and vibration coming through the suspension, through the steering, through the pedals. But at the same time, it gives you that raw mechanical feel that I love about internal combustion vehicles, and just the fact that the Wrangler is a freaking Wrangler. This thing just feels absolutely batshit crazy. It has so much capability, and it's just absolutely a blast to drive. Now, of course, driving the Wrangler normally, it definitely feels heavy. This is a 5,400-pound vehicle, either way you slice it. So you're going to be dealing with the insane heft that this thing is pushing around, but it's also not that big of a vehicle to drive around. It's just an insanely wide vehicle, so you kind of have to deal with the width of this car when you are driving it on some narrow country roads and whatnot. The steering is very loose and numb and provides very little to no feedback, and also like no feel whatsoever. Let's try it again here this time. We'll just floor it again. Oh, that sound. Wow, that's so fantastic. 5.4 seconds there. So sadly, this new 392 final edition is slower versus the first Wrangler V8 that I tested. And again, you can blame the additional 300 pounds of weight from all the safety equipment, the winch on the front, these big 35-inch tall tires. It is definitely still fast, but the sad thing, however, is if you guys are looking at a Wrangler 4xe, the last one that I tested about 6 months ago, is actually faster than this car 0 to 60. I got 5 seconds in that vehicle, and that's because the V8 or the hybrid Wrangler has the same torque as this thing, even though it has about 100 less horsepower. But the hybrid Wrangler definitely can't match this beast when it comes to the sound. And at the same time, I'm just shocked. I would love to do a drag race between this and the 4xe, and it's crazy to me because the numbers say that this is slower than the 4xe, but it doesn't feel that way, and that's probably because of the visceral sounds this thing is giving you. You know, which is fine. I mean, this is kind of the sayonara to the internal combustion engine before Jeep eventually gives us a new generation Wrangler with, you know, a fully electric version. And even though, you know, this V8, you know, isn't necessarily the most practical version of the Wrangler. I mean, it's the heaviest, it's going to be the thirstiest, obviously. It's certainly no sports car in terms of handling. You don't get handling upgrades on the street. This thing is gonna be a beast off-road, but out in the street, you know, it's also not as horrible as I remembered. I mean, the ride quality actually isn't too bad. It's not as bouncy as what I remember from other, you know, Jeep Wranglers that I've driven. What you do have to deal with is the incessant noise. I mean, obviously that's all forgotten when you put the top down. My particular test car has the one-touch sky roof, which is absolutely phenomenal. It just lets in the perfect amount of air and light. You can also pull the windows down. You can pull out that side you know, the side panels. And then if you want, I can just push this button here and it will close up the roof with a one-touch feature. Now, this is a $4,000 upcharge. Now, Jeep says that this is speed limited. If I'm going, I believe, over 40 miles an hour, it won't actually close or open for me. But, you know, cruising along here at 40, you know, closing the roof and putting the air conditioning on, you definitely, you know, can hear the echo in this interior, and you also hear a lot of the noise. Now, there is a fair amount of exhaust noise coming in as well. There's a button here where I can turn the exhaust, active exhaust on or off. It also will just open up if I put my foot down. It'll also open up automatically to make all of the noises. And there is a slight booming sound that I hear when the car's active exhaust is on. When it's opened up at highway speeds, when you just lift off the throttle, there is an annoying boom in addition to the road and the wind noise. And, you know, the steering, which is just loosey-goosey. The suspension is so incredibly soft. It requires constant corrections to, you know, keep the Wrangler 392 going straight. But that's, you know, okay. That's if you're used to driving a Wrangler, you expect that. Obviously, if you want a little bit more refinement, the Bronco is going to deliver that. Same thing with the new Toyota Land Cruiser and the Land Rover Defender. But there's something about the Wrangler that's still incredibly charismatic. Now, obviously, fuel economy is a sour point. In my week's worth of testing, I only averaged around 11 mpg in this beast. 11 mpg. On the highway, it did around 14 mpg, so not great. You'll do around 250 miles of range on a full tank. Remember, this is a 21.5 gallon fuel tank on premium gas, so buy the 4xe if you want better fuel efficiency from your Wrangler. I mean, it's also the quicker option, which is crazy. It wasn't the quicker option until Jeep added some extra weight to this model, but just remember, this 2024 final edition is slower than the earlier renditions of this car because of the additional heft. But still, there's so much character within this vehicle. It has all the capability, most of the comforts and luxury that you're going to want in a Wrangler. Obviously, it's still a Wrangler. It's not going to be the most comfortable or the luxurious vehicle either. This interior, to me, definitely doesn't scream six figures, but I do appreciate the new infotainment system, the safety features, the side curtain airbags, the power seats, the leather seats that my test car gives you. But it does get me curious to see, you know, where the next generation Wrangler is going. But again, if you're looking for the ultimate gas-powered Wrangler now, it doesn't get much better than this 392 in the final edition spec. So with a little over 155,000 Wranglers sold in America last year, the Jeep is still the best-selling vehicle in its segment. However, there was a time where Jeep used to sell between 200,000 to 250,000 units, so I'm a little shocked to see the sales numbers declining. Now, of course, that could be because of the Ford Bronco. Ford did around 130,000 Broncos in the US last year, so it sounds like a lot of people who were considering a Wrangler may have jumped ship and bought a Ford Bronco instead, but after spending a full week with the final edition version of the Wrangler 392, I have to say there is still a lot of things to like about the Jeep Wrangler. Obviously, if you guys are looking for upgraded tech, you're going to get that with the 2024 upgrades. The Uconnect 5 system is a huge improvement. It finally brings in wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It also has the safety and luxury features that you kind of wanted in a vehicle, especially at this price point, with the side curtain airbags, the power seats, the heated seats, the leather stitching on the dash. This is obviously the nicest Wrangler that money can buy, but it also is the most expensive Wrangler that money can buy. Now, what did surprise me is the 0 to 60 performance. Obviously, the V8 still makes incredible sounds, but what is disappointing is the fact that the 4xe model, at least in my testing, is actually 0.2 seconds faster 0 to 60 wise in hybrid mode. So if you guys have this vehicle and you happen to pull up next to a 4xe Wrangler, don't be surprised to see your ass get handed to you at a drag race, because there is a lot of additional weight when you go for this model because of the winch at the front. Keep in mind, if you guys have the earlier 392 versions, I got a 0 to 60 time in 4.5 seconds in that model. So again, a little disappointing, but you can't argue with the fact that the noises this thing makes. On the road, this is still a very cumbersome vehicle to drive and daily, especially if you guys plan to do a lot of highway driving. If you don't plan to do that, this is the best city vehicle and the best off-roader, obviously still one of the best in the segment. In terms of the back seat and the trunk area, it's pretty average for the class. Keep in mind, some competitors are going to offer you more space, but really my biggest gripe with the Wrangler has to do with the pricing of this vehicle, because at a base price of around 32 grand for the base Wrangler, it's still a relative bargain. But if you guys want the V8 will cost you at least $92,000 if you guys were able to snag one of the, you know, earlier versions of the 2024 model before the final edition started production. Of course, the final edition has an $8,500 premium on top of the $92,000 plus $4 grand for the one-touch roof and $2,000 for the air compressor in the back. And my test car has an as-tested price of just under $108,000. I know we are now looking at six-figure prices for a Wrangler. And also keep in mind, when this model first came out in 2021, I actually tested a black version of this that obviously didn't have all the upgrades that this model has, but that was around $78,000. So Jeep has charged an additional 20 grand in the last 3 years for the V8 powered Wrangler, which doesn't surprise me because dealer markups were insane. The Ford Bronco Raptor starts at around $90,000 now. So basically, if you want the ultimate off-roader with a screaming engine underneath the hood, you're going to be spending, close to six-figure or over six-figure price tags. But also keep in mind that at this price point, you could get something like a Lexus GX Overtrail, which obviously isn't quite as cool as this, but it also has a lot more luxury and capability and practicality and comfort. There's also the new Toyota Land Cruiser. The Land Rover Defender also is within this price gap, which is also going to be a more comfortable vehicle to live with on a daily basis. But again, none of those competitors that I mentioned, aside from the Bronco, has the ability to open up the roof, take off the door panels, take off the roof, obviously, and make this thing a true open-air experience. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2024 Jeep Wrangler 392 and the final edition. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.